Thanks for joining, everyone. So we are now in the part 5 of our implementation series. And today's session is all about MJML, how to get started and start creating some use cases, writing some code with the MJML. So Akash is going to share in depth of how to get started and how to write code. I'm so excited to listen to what he has to share. And I also wanted to share about the few other upcoming events in the implementation series. We have the next session scheduled every day, every Wednesday, every week. So the next session is on April 19th. That is on developer workflow for SFMC with BLDR. That's by Anthony. And the next session is on April 26th. That is about MC scripting languages, how to practice, experiment, and learn MC scripting languages using MC snippets. So that is by Pato Sapir. He is the MVP, and MC snippets have been very helpful when we are trying to write some code and see if it is really working or not. And we have other session on May 1st week, May 3rd. That is on retrieving the journey history API. And I have two other sessions as well in the plans. So I am going to publish them the earliest possible. So please be on the lookout, and I hope you're all in the group, join the group, so you will get automated notifications. And we're also planning for some sessions, deep dive sessions on AMP and Marketing Cloud personalization. That is still in the plans, and we will be publishing them out soon, maybe end of this month or early next month. So please be on the lookout and make sure, if you're interested to learn about them, make sure you register to those events. Once again, thank you everyone for joining today. With that, I will let Akash take it over.
Thanks, JB. Hey everyone, thanks for taking the time and joining in. The topic that I'll be presenting today is on how you can accelerate email development process using MJML. Before that, a quick introduction of myself. My name is Akash Israni. I'm a marketing cloud lead at Genetrix Technology, 7x Salesforce certified. I'm the author of sfmcstack.com, which is a technical site for all things Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And I also do post actively on my LinkedIn page called SFMC Stack, where we currently have more than 2,000 trailblazers. And these are my social handles. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or anything in general with respect to SFMC, and I'll try my best to help you. Okay, so for today's agenda, I'll be covering the following, starting with introduction, what is MJML, why should we even use MJML, editors and plugins, followed by syntax, components. Then I'll be covering a demo wherein we'll try building an email using MJML, followed by some examples, best practices, and finally some resources that will help you to get started for learning. So first of all, like as an email marketer, I think you might already know that email marketing still remains like one of the most effective ways to reach your customers and also engage with them. But developing the emails from scratch that looks great on all devices and clients can really be a daunting task, right? So there are a few challenges currently regarding the email development. So I'll just cover them each. So the first challenge that we have is email design standards. So unlike web development, where we have a set of standards defined that we can use to code our websites, in email development, it's pretty hard to stay updated with all the best practices. And moreover, it depends on the email clients, right? Because say, for example, if Gmail is supporting something today, they might stop doing that tomorrow. Then you would have to go into the documentation, understand all those changes. And based on that, you would have to do those changes within your code. The second challenge is compatibility issues and email client discrepancies. So if you have already built a code that might work in one email client, but that same code might cause some issues in some other email client, right? So there's some discrepancies with that, and you would have to go in and code the code for each of the email clients separately, which can be time consuming. Third challenge we have is creating mobile first and responsive emails. So nowadays it's important that you build your emails that look great on mobile, since most of the users nowadays look at the emails in their phones. And at the same time, it's pretty important that you have it responsive across all the devices, across all the email clients, so that you give the user the same experience that is required from the brand. So now, because of all these challenges, building the email from scratch, it takes a longer development and testing time, right? So in order to overcome this, this is where MJML comes in. Now, what exactly is MJML, right? So MJML it stands for Mailjet Markup Language. So it's basically designed to help developers to code emails in a more simple and efficient way. So it has a pretty basic syntax, which is easy to understand and also easy to maintain. And it has a rich components that you can use within your email for faster development. And mostly it's an open source engine. So it will automatically generate HTML for you. You don't have to go in and do that separately. So the HTML that is generated is basically compliant with best practices. So say, for example, if tomorrow there are any new changes in the industry, MJML team, they will make sure that they are adding that part of the code within their engine. So they take care of that for you so that you don't have to spend your time looking into those changes and, making that time, which is obviously time consuming. So now, why should we even use MJML? So first point is it's responsive by design on most popular email clients. So even in Outlook, say if you are already an email developer, you might already know like how painful it is to work with Outlook. So you have to individually add those pieces of code, which makes it responsive for each of the email client. So second thing is MJML will help you to reduce development time and complexity. So with just a few lines of code, you can actually build emails that look great. Next is reusable and extensible components. So reusable as in we can define the settings for each of the components and we can use that throughout our email. Extensible means that when we define the default settings, you can also extend those settings in your components wherever you want within the email. And fourth point is like it automatically generates HTML for you, which is compatible and also responsive at the same time. And the best part about it is it also works with AMP script and personalization strings. So if you're already working with HTML, the way you use AMP script in a combination with HTML, the same you can do that with MJML as well. Now let's take a look at some of the editors and plugins, the options that we currently have. So first is online editor. So you can just open up your browser, go to the MJML site, and you can start coding in that. The other option you have is the desktop app. So in the MJML site, you can just download the app. And if you're already familiar working with Visual Studio or Sublime Text, you can directly install those plugins within the environment, and you can start building your emails using MJML. And finally, if you want to code in MJML within Marketing Cloud account, there's an App Exchange app called MJML Live Editor that is developed by Cloud Kettle team. So this app, when you install it in your Marketing Cloud account, it's available as a custom content block within your content builder. So I'll showcase this in the demo. And this app, it does not share any data to third party. And also whatever you code within your account using MJML app, it remains specific to your account. So the security aspect of it is already taken care by the MJML, Cloud Kettle and the Salesforce team. Now let's take a look at the syntax. So this is the basic structure for MJML and HTML. So you essentially have three parts to it. First is starting and ending with MJML component. The second part is your head components, wherein you add the styles that you require for use in the emails. And the third part of it is you can add the body component, wherein you will be adding the content of the email. So if you take a look at HTML, it's also pretty similar to MJML, right? So it also has those three parts of it. So that is because MJML is basically an abstract of HTML. So if you're already familiar with working with HTML, it's a short learning curve for you. You will be easily able to understand what MJML is about and how you can actually code. So it's pretty similar components related to HTML. So they have made it pretty easy for a beginner as well. So as and when you practice it, you'll get a hold of it. So in general, like this is how it works. So as and when you code your email in MJML, in the backend, the HTML gets generated for that MJML component. So even if you write one line of code, that is converted into HTML. Now, how does this even work, right? So MJML, they use something called a transpiler. So a transpiler, essentially what it does is it takes the input in one language and it produces the output in another language. So in our case, the transpiler, it takes MJML into as an input, and it will produce the output in HTML. So I won't deep dive much into a transpiler, but in general, this is how it works. It takes the input and just gives the output that is required. Next is components. So these are like some of the MJML components that we'll be using in our demo today. So in the body section of the MJML, we will be using these 6 components. Now, towards the right that you see, the one with the white background is basically the MJ section component. And the one with blue background is your column component. Okay. So in MJML, if you want to define any basic structure of the email, so it always starts with section followed by column. Now within that column is where you define all your remaining components, like your image, the divider, the text, and also the spacing among the components. So again, I'll showcase this in the demo. And for the head part of it, so we have another component called MJ attributes. So whenever you want to define a default settings for each of your components, say for example, if I want to define any setting for text component, so I have to do that within this component. Okay, so that's the purpose of using MJ attributes. Now let's deep dive into a demo. So in demo, I'll cover 2 parts. First, we'll see how we can actually build an email using online editor. And in the second part, I'll showcase the same within Marketing Cloud. So I'll quickly go into the editor. So yeah, so this is the site called mjml.io. So within this site, you have an option called Try It Live. So when you click on that option, you are navigated to a website, which is where you see some basic Hello World code. Okay. So the design file that I have is this. Okay. So we'll try to build this email using MJML. So within this email, I have first part is my image. This part is image. The second part of it is this divider that we'll use. And in the third part, you will see that there are 2 columns. Towards the left, I have an image, the text, and the button. And towards the right, I just have one single image with a background. So this is the background. And over here, you have a footer section, wherein I have used some personalization strings to showcase how it works with MJML. And we have some links followed by physical mail address and followed by a logo. So this is one of the emails from a company called Spiro. And towards the left that you see, I just have a basic assets that are already uploaded within my Marketing Cloud account. Now let's start building our email using MJML. So I'll just remove all these components for now. Okay. So like I mentioned earlier, we have 3 parts for MJML. So first is starting and ending with MJML component. The second part of it is we had a head tag. Okay. And next part is we add our body component. Okay. So this is our basic structure. Now within this head tag, we need to use a component called MJ attributes in order to define default settings. So I'll go ahead and add MJ attributes. Okay. Now, as and when I write the code, towards the right, you will actually see the preview for it. And you also have the option to switch between desktop and mobile over here. And also, I'll showcase how the HTML that is generated at the end of our email build. So for now, let's just focus on this part. So the first component that I need is, I'll just say section component. Now I'll just go ahead and add a padding for it. So I'll say the top and bottom padding for each section should be 30 pixels, followed by towards the left and right, the padding that I need is 40 pixels. Okay. So whatever I'm writing within this MJ attributes is what will be the default setting for your components. Now our next component I'll define as image. So I'll say I don't need any padding over here. And then we have MJ text component. So I'll again say that keep the padding as 0 pixels, followed by font size. So I'll just give it 12 pixels, followed by line height. So line height is basically if you have 4 lines, so within those each line, what's the spacing that you require? So as a best practice, we use 1.45, the spacing between the lines. And finally, I'll just add a font family. So I'll just add standard fonts, which is Arial and Sans Serif. Now, let's say if I want to add any custom font to this, right? So in that case, we actually have one more component, so which is called MJ font. So you have to define that outside of the attribute. Okay. So you just have to say MJ font, and you have to specify which URL do you need that font, custom font to be retrieved from. So I have that in my design file over here. So I'll just go ahead and copy that font. So the font name that we have is Montserrat. So I'll just copy that, give it a name so that I can use that font name over here. So I'll say this. So what this does is whenever I send this email out, depending on the email client, first it will try to utilize this custom font if it supports. If not, it will use the standard fonts. So that again depends on the email clients. So this is the basic setting that we require for our email. Now let's move on to the body part of it. So first we have this hero image, right? So for that, I'll just go ahead and first define the structure of the section. So MJ column. So this part, so think of it like similar to how you create different blocks within your email. So in order to do that in MJML, you have to define this section followed by column. So within that is where you define your all other remaining components. Okay. And for a reference, I'll just add a comment over here saying that it's a hero image. Okay. And yeah. So now I'll just use, since I need an image, I'll just use image component followed by the source. So I'll go ahead and copy that. So this is my asset that is uploaded to Marketing Cloud. So I'll paste that. Now, as I paste that towards the right, you see, I can see that preview in real time, right? So as and when I add the components, I will be able to see everything towards the right. Now, next part within our email is this divider part. So since the structure remains the same, I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this and paste it. I'll just give it a name called divider, and I'll get rid of this image. So now in order to add that divider, we need to use component called divider. So once I do that, it gives me that divider over towards the right. Now, if I want to set a width for it, I can do that as well. So I'll say 80 pixels. So that's 80 pixels, and followed by, if I want to set a width for the border, so I'll just give 5 pixels. So that's added, and I'll say the color, if you see in the design file, is we need white color, right? So I'll say border color for this divider should be white. So I'll just white. Now the background that we need for this is black. So I'll just go to this section part over here, and I'll say the background color should be black. So once I do that, it will add that color over here for that specific section. Now, if you notice for the hero image, we are getting some spacing right towards the top, bottom, left, and right. So that is because it's using the default setting that we have defined. Now, if you want, you can override that setting. So if I want to do that, I'll say padding equal to 0 pixels. Now, once I add that, if you notice that padding has been overridden, right? So, so wherever you want, you can use the default settings, and also you can extend those settings depending on your requirement. Now, next part is we have this 2-column layout with a background. This line and the blue color, what you see over here, is our background. So first I'll try coding this column 1. So again, I'll just copy this, paste it, and now since I need 2 columns, what I need to define this column component twice. Okay, so if you need a 3-column layout, you can define that same component within a single section. And so if you see within the single section, I've just defined that component twice because of the 2-column layout. So I'll just say 2-column layout. And now the first part that we need is this image over here. So I'll just go ahead, add our image component, add the source to it. So the source of our image is defined over here. So I'll just copy that. And it says that the width should be 196 pixels. So I'll just add that source, and I'll say the width of this should be 196 pixels. So this is our image. Now, the second part is adding this paragraph over here. So I'll go ahead and copy that. So I'll just copy this. Now, within that same column, just after the image, we need to add that MJ text component, and I'll just paste that. Now, if you notice, the paragraph has been added, but again, we need to just change the color for it. So I'll just change the color to white. And again, if you want, if you notice over here, I've just set it as 12 pixels. But if I want, I can go ahead and set it as 14 pixels. So I'll just showcase that as well. So 14 pixels. So this is our paragraph over here. And the next part is adding this button. So in our case, since it's a customized button, so we'll be adding an image for that instead of a button component. So I'll just go back to this. After the text, I will say MJ image. I'll add the source of that image, and so the width that I need is 129 pixels. So I'll just add that with the width of 129 pixels. Okay. Now for column 2, all we need is an image. So for column 2, I'll just add image component, say source. So this is our image, followed by width as 310 pixels. So add that, and you can set the width as 310 pixels. Okay. Now the final thing that we need in this is a background. So we have a background URL for it. So now, since I need that background for this section, all you have to do is set a background URL over here. You can just say background URL. So that is this URL over here. So once I add that, I have my background. And the final thing that we need over here is, if you notice, we have some spacing over here and this over here and over here as well. So in order to give that spacing, you need one more component that is called MJ spacer. So first I'll add it over here, and I'll say the height for that space that we need, let's say 50 pixels. So this is what will add that space over there. Now, if you notice, it's added that space. Now I'll just add that over here and over here as well. So I'll just copy that, and after the paragraph, I'll add a space. And one more space, I need it in the second column. So I'll go to second column and add that over there. So once that is done, our two-column layout is ready. The final thing that we need is MJ footer. So again, I'll just copy that structure that we need, and I'll say it as footer. Now I'll remove this component. Now the first thing that we need is this text. So for that, again, just use the text component, copy that. So here I'm using a personalization string. And since we don't need any background for that, I'll get rid of this. So if you notice, we have a light gray color over here, and it's also aligned towards the center. So we can just go ahead, change the color over here. So the color, I can get it from my design file. So this is the color. So once you add that, it will add it. Now, in order to align that center, I'll just, in the default settings, I'll just go ahead and say align the text to center. Okay. Now, once I do that, this footer gets aligned. But if you notice, even this is center aligned, right? So for that, you can either override it over here or override it over here based on however you feel is right. And I'll just say align left. So this is align left, and we need this. Now we just need to add 2 more URLs for this. So for that, I'll just say add a link for this text called unsubscribe. And I add a second link for the text that is preferences. So I'll say check. So again, if you want to change the color, you can do that as well. So you can just define that component over here and use it. So that is light gray, and similarly, you can just copy that, paste it, and yeah, that's it. So now within this links, so in the design file, I have 2 personalization strings. One is for unsubscribe center and one is for profile center. So in Marketing Cloud, if you have built emails, there are 2 things that are required. One is the profile center, and one is the physical mailing address. So unsub center is optional, but in this email, I'll just go ahead and add that. So this is for unsubscribe. So you can just directly add that over here. And for profile center, you just need to copy that and paste it over here. Okay. So that is done. And next final part is adding the physical mailing address. So if you notice, we have this part as our mailing address. So when you add this, it will take the data from your account settings and populate within that email. So I'll just go ahead and add one more text component to it. Copy that. And you can just copy the color for it, and you can paste it. And if I need some spacing, so all you have to do is say padding top. So from the top, you just have like add a space over there. Okay. So that is done. Finally, we just need one footer logo. So for that, again, just use image component, So the source that we need is over here, which is 100 pixels. So copy that and paste that. And say width should be 100 pixels. Okay. All right. Now that our email is ready, so this is how it looks like in the desktop view, and this was our design file initially. So now if I want to switch between desktop and mobile, you can just click over here. Now it will show you how it's previewed on mobile. Okay. And if you notice over here, the background is being repeated in the second column. So if you want to remove that, all you have to do is go to that section, specific section. So here I'll try to remove this so that the background does not repeat. So for that, you have one more attribute called MJ repeat. So you can just say MJ repeat as no repeat. And if you notice now that background is not being repeated, right? So it's only once. So this is our email. But the main point that I want to focus on over here is if you notice for MJML, all I had to do was write about 56 lines of code, right? But if I go and view the HTML over here, if you notice, it has generated almost 304 lines of code. Now, this includes whatever you have coded on the left side, plus all the responsiveness for each of the email clients, and also how your email should look like across different devices. So all those things, they are automatically taken care by MJML. So if you look at over here, it has automatically added all the styling that it's required. And over here, if you notice that it is checking the width of the device. So even that, it has added it automatically. So all I had to do was build the body of the email using MJML. The rest of the things, it will automatically take care for you. Okay. Now, let's just move on to part 2 of our demo. So in the part 2, the first thing that we require is install package. But before that, I just want to show you the App Exchange app that we have. So in the App Exchange, if you search for MJML Live Editor, so you will find this app. So after you log into it, you will be navigated to a page where you can see the settings for the install package. So since I have that link, I'll go to that directly. And yeah, so over here you have installation steps and usage. Okay. So here they just have defined step by step on how you can actually install this app. So I'll go to Marketing Cloud and showcase how we will be adding that. Now, the first thing that I need is creating an install package. So I'll just create a new package. I'll give it a name called MJML Live Editor. Okay. I'll click on Save. So once I have created that package, I need to add a component. Yeah. So for that, click on Add Component. Over here, if you notice, we have something called a custom content block. So select that, go to the next step. Now here, whatever the name that you give is what you would be seeing it on the content builder. Okay. Now I'll just use the same name as MJML Live Editor. Okay. Now we need the endpoint URL. So for that, you can find that within the website, the installation steps. So here you find this endpoint URL. So you just copy that, paste it into your component settings, and just click on Save. Okay. Now, once I have added that, it will automatically add that custom block to our content builder. So I'll just go ahead and refresh that so that we can see that component. So these are the assets that I added in my email. But if you notice over here, I've just created a blank template. Okay. So I don't have any other details within this. So I'll just edit that. Now, if you notice towards the left, it has added a custom content block called MJML Live Editor. So all you have to do is just drag that, put it in your block over here, and it will again give you that hello world code. Now this is where you code your email in MJML. So you have 4 tabs for this. First is your MJML where you code, and second is this HTML editor. So similar to how you saw that in the online editor, we have that within this app available. So this will automatically generate that HTML for you. Third part is code snippets. So I think there's some error with the app right now, but here you will see the snippets of each of the components, MJML components. So you can also find that in the documentation that I'll showcase in a moment. And then finally, you have a block setting. Okay. So now, just to save some time, I'll just copy this MJML part of it. So towards the left, I'll just copy that and I'll paste it over here. Okay. So once I do that, if you see, it automatically generates that HTML for you. And towards the right, you can see that preview. Okay. Now, I'll just go ahead and preview and test to see if the personalization strings are being added. So I'll just select data extension and so in this data extension, I have used a email field, which is what we define in our personalization string. So this, if you notice over here, it has added that email, right? So, and if you notice the physical mailing address, it has added that as well, along with our logo and other parts of it. So I have the link for unsubscribe, email preference centers, and rest of the things, right? So now here you can also, like, if you have Litmus integrated within your Marketing Cloud account, you can always go to that login and see how your email actually looks like across different devices. So you can do that from over here. Also, you also have the option of like navigating between desktop and mobile. Now, what if I want to use AMP script, right? The one that I used was a personalization string. But if I want to use AMP script, I'll just quickly showcase that as well. So I'll go to the block. Now, if you have already worked with AMP script plus HTML, if you remember that we can actually use AMP script outside of our HTML block. Say, for example, here, if I go ahead. So if this was a HTML code and if you would have done this, it would have worked. Okay. So I'll just add that quickly over here, the variable that I have used. So %%. Okay. So if you would have done this in HTML, it would have worked. But in MJML, it doesn't work that way. So I'll just preview and showcase that. So if you see, it's not populating that, right? But if it was a HTML, it would have. So MJML, it works a bit different than HTML. So in terms of utilizing AMP script, so you have to just remove that from there. And in the body part of your MJML, right, you can't do this as well. So there's a component in MJML that is called MJ-raw. Okay. So I'll just add that component. Now within this MJ-raw component, you have to paste your AMP script. Okay. So the MJ-raw component, what it does is it, if you want to add any plain HTML, or if you want something that MJML should not be able to, separately render that, in that case, we use MJ-raw. So if you want to utilize AMP script within MJML, you can do it through this component. So if I go ahead and preview this, so if you notice, it's adding that variable over here, right? There's one more part where you can actually add that. So I'll just cut that, and I'll just get rid of that. So there are two parts for it. One is the MJ raw component, and the other part is you can also copy this basic structure of your email. Okay, and over here you can just add in your AMP script. Okay, so if I do that. So within this, you have to add your text component as well. Okay, so either you add it using MJ raw component, or you can do it using your MJ text component. Okay, so we'll see if that works as well. Yeah, so those are the two components that you can utilize. I always try to use MJ raw since it's easier and I don't have to define the section and column again and again. Okay. Not only that, you can again play around with that to show different types of text. So you can use if-else statements or your other AMP script functions in a pretty similar way to this. Okay. So I'll switch back to the presentation now. So we saw how to create an install package, how you can code email for MJML and preview and test. Okay. So now these are like some of the examples which have been built using MJML. So you can again build all types of emails, order confirmations, loyalty programs, newsletter. So all these emails, they have been built using MJML. So this is just to give you an idea of what's possible with MJML. Okay. Next, coming to the best practices. So first best practice is that it's recommended that you always stick with MJML and don't directly go and do the changes in the converted HTML. Okay. So whenever you are doing in your development phase or a testing phase, whenever you come across any issue, you can check online if there's any solution for that using MJML first. Okay, so try to stick with that. If you don't find a solution, you can go to HTML. That's fine. The only reason why this is recommended is because if you go to HTML, add some changes over there, switch back to MJML, then add it over there, you might end up breaking your code, right? Because MJML, it automatically creates that HTML based on how it understands the email clients, right? So instead of breaking your code, I would say just stick with MJML and try to find a solution for that. Okay. The second best practice is, so some of the email clients, they cut off your email if the email size is too large. Okay. So for Gmail, I think there's the limit called, which is 102 KB. So if you exceed that limit, the Gmail will clip your email. Okay. Now, because of that, you might end up having two issues. First issue is, although they can just see a part of your email, there will be a option for them to open that email in a new tab. So that option, I think it's called view entire message. So when they click on that, it will navigate them to a new tab and they can see that full email over there. But again, that's not a really good user experience, right? And the second issue that you will see is, since the email is clipped, the unsubscribe link would not be visible to them. So you might end up having compliance issues as well. Now, in order to overcome this problem, we have an option called Minify. So since we don't have this option in the App Exchange app, I'll show you this within MJML Live Editor. So if I go back to MJML Live Editor, okay, so I'll switch to View HTML. Now, okay, so currently, if you see, I have about 304 lines of code, right? Now, we have an option over here called Minify HTML. So once I click on that, if you notice, it just brings down your code to like 26 lines. So it will basically decrease the code size. Okay, so it will remove all the unwanted spacing, all the unwanted characters from the code, and it will give you this code over here. Okay, so if you actually go ahead and create two files in your desktop, one with Minify, one without Minify, you will actually notice the difference in the sizes, file sizes. Okay. So this is one option that you can use. So you can always like test those emails, and if you feel that need to use this option, you can go ahead and do that. Now, sometimes what happens is even with this option enabled, you might be exceeding that 102 KB limit. So the only solution at that point is you have to cut down your email. Okay. So you remove just a few sections of your email and try to keep that as your email. Okay. So that's second point. And third point, like as always, test your emails, see how it looks across different devices, different clients. And if you notice any issue, try to adjust that code and try to stick with MJML. Okay. Finally, I have some resources, so I'll quickly show you some of them. So this is the main MJML site. Over here in mjml.io. So you have the online editor that you can access it from here. You have some of the basic templates. So if you want to learn as a beginner, you can always go to this. It will redirect you to a email that has already been built using MJML. So you can practice that. Okay. So that's about the templates. And second, you have some resources available over here. Frequently asked questions. You can check if which components of your MJML are compatible, and you have some guides and tutorials as well. You also have a MJML community. So currently, I believe the MJML version is 4.9. So it's always they keep contributing in the GitHub, and as and when they release new features and functionality, they add it in the new version. And then you have the API. You can use those APIs as well. And finally, the important part is this documentation. So this is a very detailed documentation. You'll find details for each of the component over here along with code snippets. So if I just go to this components over here, so these are the standard components. So if you notice towards the right, they have snippets for each. So you have MJ font, and similarly you have components for other. So if I go to image, I have image snippets. So you can always just copy this in order to save some more time, and you can just edit that part of your component. Okay. So the documentation, it's pretty neat, and it's also very detailed. So it's very easy to practice as well. So you can explore this documentation. And the second is App Exchange app that I showed you earlier. So you can, which is available for free. So you can always go ahead and add it to your Marketing Cloud account. So try to not do that in the client account, but if you have a demo account, you can practice in that. If you don't want to do that, you can always use other options like online editor. Next is plugins. So for Visual Studio, we have a plugin as well. You can just install this plugin within your Visual Studio environment, and you can get started. So I think, yeah, Sublime Text. The last one is Sublime Text. So you can add that into your Sublime Text and get started. Okay. So one important point to note is like some of the options that you see in one resource might not be available in another resource. Like in App Exchange app, you might see something, some options that are not available in online editor. And similarly, for online editor, if you notice, we don't have this Minify option in the App Exchange app. So those minor differences and features you will see that are missing. But again, you can always go back to other resources and try to do if it's needed. So yeah, I think yeah, again, like some of the content references I've just taken it from the MJML website and Cloud Kettle website. So yeah, I think that's all I had for today. If there are any questions, I can check them. Yeah.
That's wonderful, Akash, and thanks for the ton of resources that you have shared. So we will be sharing the slide deck as well after the session. The recording of this will also be uploaded to the YouTube channel, and I will link all these external resources and the slide deck to the description. And we do have a couple of questions, Akash. I think we can take a few of them. We have 5 minutes. So one question I see from Marco is, can we use the MJML inside Content Builder? I think you already answered it.
Yeah.
So I would ask the attendees to type in the answer in the chat because Akash has already covered it. So how do we build it, bring in the code from MJML editor into the Content Builder? Anybody can answer this question in the chat.
Yeah, I think I showcased that as well. So
yes, that was in the second part.
Yeah.
Thank you for the detailed demo, Akash. This is something new for many of us. So this is really helpful, and the way that you have dived in deeper and also the resources that you have shared are really helpful. And the next question I have is MJML accessibly compliant? Can you add an alt tag to the images like a description, or create buttons instead of create text buttons instead of image buttons if the image is not loading? Then
yeah,
some alternatives.
Yeah, so MJML it works similar to how your HTML does. So you can add attributes like alt tags to your images and other components as well. And also you can sorry, what was the second point?
Instead of image buttons, can we display text buttons?
Yeah, you can do that as well. So MJML it provides a lot of flexibility with that as well. So one important point to again be mindful of is MJML, we don't have all the components, I would say. So there are a few components that I have seen are missing within MJML, but again, it's always that they are contributing and bringing those new features into the new versions. So if you don't have that option, just try using HTML. So you can also work with a combination of MJML plus HTML if you don't have the option for MJML component.
Awesome. And I see a lot of positive feedback. It is great. The next question, is there any way to restrict which users see the MJML live editor within Marketing Cloud? So within the Content Builder, we are able to see that MJML block. So can we restrict access to some of the users?
Yeah, so in the install package, I believe you can restrict that access. So let me just check that. So here you have the access over here option. So you can restrict that to specific users, and yeah, you can do that as well.
Yeah, wonderful. So we have seen this use case with the Marketing Cloud. Can we also create emails in the core.mc AE as well using MJML?
Sorry, can you please repeat that question?
So we have used this MJML code within the Marketing Cloud, right? To create the MC emails. So the same way, the core.emails, the Marketing Cloud account engagement emails that we create. So can we use the same code, use some other?
Yeah. So this App Exchange app, I believe it's only available for Marketing Cloud. But if you want to use it in Pardot, what you can do is you can always go and code in MJML. The HTML part of it, you can copy that and you can paste it for your emails, and that should work because that's a HTML, basic HTML, right? So that is generated. So you can copy that HTML part of it and you can paste that wherever you need, and then you can utilize that and extend as well.
That's a great answer. Yeah, I see another comment from Dan saying he has used MJML in Pardot and it works just right. So it works.
Yeah.
And I see another question by Sushant. It's a code which has some issues. I think it takes some while to look at the code and debug it.
Yeah, Sushant, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to help you on that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think those are all the questions. Thank you very much, Akash. So this recording, we will be uploading it on YouTube channel, Trailblazing Together. You can also find it using hashtag @MC Learning Camp. And the slide deck as well, we will be sharing it soon. And thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Akash for sharing this wonderful session.
Thanks, JB. Bye, everyone.
Have a good one, everyone. Thank you.